You're listening to Bridge the Gap Season 4, a podcast dedicated to inform, educate, and influence the future of housing and services for seniors. This podcast is powered by supporting partners Propel Insurance, Enquire, LTC REIT, the Bridge Group Construction, and Solinity. Learn more at btgvoice.com.
Welcome to Bridge Gap Podcast, the senior living podcast with Josh and Lucas. We have a very exciting and informative show related to infection control. This is something you're definitely going to want to lean in and hear. We have a great friend of ours on the program. We want to welcome Dan Lawson. He's the president of business development at Viking Pure. Welcome to the show.
Oh, well, thanks for having us. Very exciting.
This is a part of many conversations that we've had. Obviously, a worldwide topic of infection control, given the recent outbreak of the coronavirus and many other issues that we face when it comes to infection control. Senior living is not new to infections. They have weathered many flu seasons, many different outbreaks, neurovirus, common colds. They all affect our older adult population. And one thing that I know that you're a big proponent of, and I'm personally a big proponent of myself as I visit a lot of these communities, I want to see these communities be able to take the power back into their own hands to control their own environment. And that is something that you're an expert at. So let's start by introducing electrolyzed water, also known as hypochlorous acid, to our audience. What in the world is electrolyzed water?
Yeah, no, that's I loved how you slowed it down and really enunciated that too, because, a lot of people think that they've heard of it before. They think of like electrolytes in water and things like that we drink, but it's an old science. Electrolyzed water is a technology that goes back 50, 60 years. It's been documented with a handful of uses in everything from, healthcare, wound debridement, to food and different types of manufacturing processes. But it's 10th grade chemistry when we all, kind of come back to earth. What we're doing is we're simply combining three elements together: water, electricity, and salt. The same type of salt that you would find on your kitchen table at home, sodium chloride. What happens is, the salt is interacted with the water and the electricity at very specific flow rates and currents. And that salt separates into its two main ions, sodium hydroxide and chlorine or hypochlorous acid specifically. And what you get are essentially byproducts of each other when you electrolyze water. You get a hospital grade disinfectant that's called hypochlorous acid that will kill any germ, any bacteria, virus, antibiotic resistant superbug or fungus. And then the byproduct of the hypochlorous acid is a cleaning solution, a degreasing solution that's a bit different from a chemical perspective, but equally as safe and equally as effective as, in the applications that you would intend to use them for.
Josh, I know that you were tracking with that. You were writing down the formulas. You're going to figure this out at home and you're going to try to make this. I can see the wheels just churning.
No, when you went somewhere around 10th grade chemistry, I think that was also about the time I flunked out of school. So you lost me.
Well, let me simplify it. Yeah, let me simplify it a little bit for you, Josh. So we talked about the concept of electrolyzed water, and my company does these cool things so that you can make this product on your premises. But to really simplify this, it's best to just look at our natural kind of body and immune system. Hypochlorous acid is actually a natural solution that your body creates when it's fighting infection. Your white blood cells have this ability to mix the water, salt, and electricity that you have kind of naturally flowing through your body to create this amazingly powerful, what we call biocide, that will come in contact with a pathogen and kill it. So you think of cuts, you think of, the flu or norovirus or COVID, God forbid, come into your body. Your body's first mechanism of defense is to create this solution, swarm those germs and kill them. So although you may not be familiar with it, you've been living with it for the last, Josh, 25 years, 26 years?
Yes, I love you more, Dan, every day. I do. Well, so that leads me. So first of all, Lucas has been talking to me about this for the last year. He has indeed become a very big believer in it. I have as well, even though I don't fully understand it, even no matter how simple you make it for me. But my common brain typically when I think of like infection control, especially when I'm thinking in our communities and things. There's so many different chemicals that we have that we've bought, and you've got all these sheets to remember all these ingredients, and then it can be harmful to you and your staff if used in the inappropriate ways, and you're always thinking about what surfaces I can use it on, what I can't use it on. It can be extremely confusing at the operations level, especially in a smaller community when you don't have a big staff and maybe a big maintenance department to help you understand the uses and things. But one of the things, Dan, I would like for you to talk a little bit more about and help me understand, help the audience understand, is something Lucas was sharing with me, in how maybe it's because your body does produce this and this is fairly natural stuff and simple, I guess, chemistry, as you would describe, that actually it's a lot less harmful when used in the proper application. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I mean, in summary, and the easiest ways that I can describe this is, chemicals do not need to be deadly or dangerous for us or for our environment to kill germs. That's one of the most amazing characteristics of hypochlorous acid. It's very lethal to a pathogen, to a germ, but it's completely safe for us. It's safe for our surfaces that we want to apply it to. It's safe for the plants and animals, that we share our spaces with. Because of its safety profile, it can be used in ways that, really traditional chemicals cannot. We saw a lot of unique practices, kind of come out of the woodwork over the last 18 months to 24 months. You see people spraying chemicals into the air. You see people humidifying solutions. I just pray that, honestly, they're using hypochlorous acid in those different types of situations, because, spraying dangerous chemicals into the air, has led to increases in poison control center calls. It's led to increases in, a toxic environment, for those that are, kind of stuck applying these solutions on a day-to-day basis. But because hypochlorous acid is so safe, there is no concern for, is it applicable for this surface versus others? God forbid a resident get their hands on it when a team member may, turn their back for a second and either ingest it or spill it on themselves. There's no risk of harm, in that type of a scenario. And that's why we're just so passionate about educating as many as we can, specifically in senior living, because there's not another safety profile out there that's going to allow for, the broad spectrum need, for the application of the device to create a safe space, but also balancing that just ever important, safety component.
So Lucas, over the last year or so, you've been going into these communities of various types, various different operators. Actually, you've been doing some infection control, some clearing and things like that. I believe you've actually been using this quite a lot, not only at home, but also in these communities. Is that right?
Yeah. I've been using hypochlorous acid, electrolyzed water as a cleaning solution in my own home for the past 6 years. And just to give a little bit of a personal testimony, and this is a reason why I was so just wanted to understand Dan even more and their products even more, is because this is something I've been using very effectively in my own life. We have a special needs child that has a lot of health issues, and our child cannot be around chemicals. So we were not able to use, typically, most people have bleach in their house, right? Well, in 2021, we know that bleach is actually a very harsh chemical. It certainly has its applications in some places at some times, but we're a lot smarter today. I remember back in the early 2000s, people used to think, well, you see some mold on the wall, they're like, just spray some bleach on it, and it'll go away. Well, we know that that's completely false and not the right application and not a good solution. And so my wife and I, because of our personal story, we did some research and we were able to find hypochlorous acid as a solution. And we've been using it around our children and around our home for 6 years. And so when I met Dan, he told me that he had a commercial application for this. I thought my mind was blown. And not only that, they even have very specific prototype of the way that their technology is actually creates and generates this. And Dan, we can go into that in just a minute. Before that, explain to the listener the difference. So that, obviously in communities, I see, the eco labs, the Syntec, all these different big commercial cleaning applications, and multiple products and closets and these, safety data sheets and all that kind of stuff. Compare hypochlorous acid to just bleach. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very specific, comparison. And it's an interesting one because a lot of people don't realize this, but hypochlorous acid is actually the active killing ingredient in bleach. What you do with bleach is you store it at a higher pH. It's called sodium hypochlorite. And when you want to create a killing agent with it, you add water to bleach, which dilutes it. It brings the pH of the solution down. And while you're bringing the pH of the solution down, sodium hypochlorite will actually transition from sodium hypochlorite to hypochlorous acid. The problem is that you have to keep it at such high concentrations in order to create, an effective disinfecting solution, that what you're using is actually a toxic product. It's a bleaching product. It'll discolor or corrode surfaces. What our machine does is it isolates the most impactful version of bleach, the hypochlorous acid. It makes it pure and it keeps it at a very specific pH, which allows it to be ultimately effective in killing pathogens, but safe, safe for surfaces, safe for contact. And, I remember that conversation, Lucas, when we first met. It's an unbelievably endearing story. And I can imagine a very challenging one in trying to keep certain things out of the household. I can personally relate, on behalf of several of our customers who have transitioned, from using more traditionally toxic chemicals for cleaning and disinfecting, and to hear some of their personal stories about, no longer having, kind of a persistent cough, or, the trademarks of like an environmental service worker, having burns kind of on their hands as like, just an aspect of the job, because of the chemicals that they have to handle. Removing those things is tremendously gratifying, for us. And it's why we do what we do, because it's not just about the resident, right? I mean, they're an extremely important component, but we also want to protect those frontline workers, who are, responsible for creating a safe space. The effects of toxic chemicals are, it's alarming. And the data is starting to show, specifically those that are delegated the cleaning and disinfecting responsibilities on a daily basis. They're showing increases in asthma rates. They're showing increases in cancer percentages, down the line. And that's what we're passionate about. That's what we want to bring awareness to. We want to remove toxic chemicals from the environment. We want to present an innovative way of creating a sustainable model that allows for our customers to not have to rely on supply chain management and the storage of dangerous chemicals, but generate everything they need on site safely and ultimately create a safer and better infection control protocol.
I love it. So let's talk a little bit. I'm reminiscing here a little bit with you guys because it wasn't very long ago that we had our first celebration VIP Ignite experience in Nashville. Dan, your team was there, very gracious, also extremely professional, and actually helped us with keeping our environment safe. To be honest with you, I didn't fully understand the chemical or what they were doing, other than they looked a little bit like the Ghostbuster team coming in taking care of us. And they were so thorough and so efficient. But honestly, 200 people in a boutique hotel. We had your team there, cleaning the spaces in between each experience. I think it helped keep us all safe and healthy in that experience. Maybe you and Lucas, I know y'all have worked together a lot in this capacity from using it in a commercial, because I know a lot of our listeners are out there probably thinking, hey, I've heard about this, don't understand it. What's the application? How would I apply something like this in my community and so forth? Can you all talk a little bit about that between the two of you guys?
Just to kind of lead off, an amazing event, a little over a month ago. Miss Nashville already. That was so much fun. You guys did an amazing job, and we were just so fortunate to be a part of it. We were happy to serve. I mean, that was, that's what we do as an organization. I mean, whether it be our customers or our friends in the industry, we want you to know that we're here for you, and we certainly we relish the opportunity to create a safe environment for everybody, including ourselves, right? So, but one of the technologies that we brought with us to that meeting, in addition to the solution that we were kind of spraying and killing germs, was electrostatic spray technology, which many communities have invested in, over the last year. These are the spray guns, the backpacks, the Ghostbuster looking, type of technologies that allow you to emit solutions into the air. And we've seen a lot of, like I said, communities invest in this technology. It's very expensive technology. We often get confused for electrostatic spraying manufacturing. We don't make sprayers. We provide sprayers because, again, the safety profile of our product allows you to extend on how you would normally apply disinfectant. Like you can't spray bleach you can spray bleach through an electrostatic spray. You just wouldn't want to, right? Like that would be unbelievably dangerous. And, we've unfortunately seen, similar types of things happen over the last year, but we've been promoting broad spectrum disinfection application, since, me and my fellow business partner started this company back in, 2014. It really just kind of came into popularity over the last year because of how easy it is to spray a large room. But what our team was doing in Nashville was, simply between gatherings, going in and ensuring that we got maximum surface contact with our disinfectant. And you do that through electrostatic spray. What's really cool about electrostatic spray is that the solution has a static charge that is added to it as it's emitted from the gun. So when it comes in contact with a chair or a table or a wheelchair, or maybe in like a rehab room inside of a community, all the little nooks and crannies associated with a patient care area, that disinfectant, because of that static charge, much like when your clothes are staticky, will cling to surfaces and disinfect on contact. So what we did, knowing that we only had a minimal amount of time, kind of between, gatherings, we wanted to keep to the schedule. Our team went through and simply electrostatic sprayed the entire area, ensuring that we were, touching the high touch surfaces with disinfectant to allow for a safe transition of crowds, if you will, between the events.
This brings to mind, to try to kind of complete the circle here. I'm trying to think of it through the listener's perspective. Dan, walk us through the actual practical makeup. How is this product, quote unquote, made? Like, I think that if I'm being introduced to this for the first time, I'm thinking like, why do I need to know how this is made? Why is this at my community? And kind of walk us through the reasons why it needs to be made, shelf life, things like that.
Cool. Yeah. So, our technology seamlessly fits into the operational processes at any community. I'm sure you're familiar, if you've ever been inside of like a facilities closet, you see the chemical distribution system that's mounted on the wall that team members will go and fill their bucket. So that process actually doesn't change. It just, instead of going to a toxic chemical distribution system, you go to the Viking Pure machine, which is installed on site within a community. And it's just like a home appliance. I use dishwasher oftentimes as kind of like a comparable appliance, in the sense that it connects to a water source and an electrical source. And then with this, just the simple addition of salt, that a user, a facilities manager, or an EVS staff member, would add salt to the machine when it is necessary to create these two solutions, one cleaner and one disinfectant. Now, the art of cleaning doesn't change. They go about their procedures the same way that they would normally with traditional chemicals. They just use the Viking Pure products instead. So our products actually aren't used any differently. They're still sprayed on surfaces, wiped up, mop floors, filled with mop buckets, same types of applications. It's just because of the safety component that you can do these other things. So like all of, senior living communities invested in electrostatic sprayers, they ended up buying an additional chemical to spray out of those electrostatic sprayers that they brought into their, communities. With our system, they don't need to buy extra chemicals. They don't need to buy any chemicals. They're going to generate everything that they need with the Viking Pure machine they'll clean as they normally would, but they can also fog, electrostatic spray, et cetera. If you looked at a team member's like cart, an environmental service member's cart, traditionally it might have 9 or 10 different bottles on there. If you think you've got one thing for glass, one thing for floors, one disinfectant for bathrooms, one for food areas, there's a bunch of different products. On our team members' carts, there's 2 products. It's the Viking Pure cleaner and the Viking Pure disinfectant. And they utilize those 2 products in concert with each other to maximize cleanliness and get a certifiably clean and pure environment.
So Dan, why can't we run down to the hardware store or Walmart and get some hypochlorous acid?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, you can't go down to your local Walgreens and buy a bottle of HOCl because it's a very weak acid and has a shelf life of only about 30 days after it's been generated. So it wouldn't, make logistical sense to have bottles of this stuff sitting around. That's why generating it on site is so advantageous because, if you're ever concerned that you don't have fresh solution, you could just simply dump that bottle and go right back to the source and fill it back up. So that's the basic answer to that question.
And when you say it has a shelf life, my understanding is it literally just turns back into the water, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's 99.9% water. That's what I love about this stuff, because you look at the ingredients list on, any, kind of competitive traditional chemical, and it might give you the 1 or 2 agents, that are responsible for doing the killing. And then it says like 98% like other or proprietary ingredients. You have literally no idea what's in it. You look at our ingredients list, it says hypochlorous acid and water. It's literally, that's it. And if it does gas out, it reverts back to water. You're absolutely right. There's no additives, no preservatives. There's no unnecessary like fragrances or colors or anything like that added to our product. And there's very important reasons why. I know that the term superbug, has become common terminology in senior living, right? We see C. diff, we see MRSA, we see these bacterial pathogens that have essentially developed a resistance to the antibiotics that we treat them with. We're seeing the same phenomenon happen with disinfectants. Bugs, germs are learning to adapt to the disinfectants that we use. And the reason is the same in both parties. It's these residues that are either left in our bodies or our food, from the antibiotic perspective, or on surfaces from the disinfectant perspective that is allowing for this adaptation to occur. There's a tremendous amount of peer-reviewed, published data that shows that when products are either over-concentrated or under-concentrated, you present this opportunity for adaptive resistance. The way that it presents, to the kind of the lay person is, specifically in senior living, I always use this example. Have you ever felt a floor that was just mopped still feels sticky, or have you ever wiped a glass window and you see like a streakiness or a fogginess? That residue is a biofilm from a clinical perspective. And if you were to pull that residue back, underneath of that would be thousands of viable colonies of bacteria, that are just happily living there. So you don't want residues on surfaces. You certainly don't want the aesthetic nuisance of it, right? Like, resident family members or residents themselves, they don't believe that their apartment was cleaned, and that cleaning person is like, I literally just mopped it, like they're let down by their product. One of the biggest transitions I think that our customers experience when they adapt to these, Viking Pure solutions is that those residues are removed, from the surfaces. They no longer have those sticky sensations. They're able to rid themselves of kind of that and ensure that the solution or that the rooms or the spaces have been cleaned. But they also know that they're not kind of contributing to this adaptive resistance either by, allowing product to sit on surfaces for infinite amount of time.
So I'm going to blow Josh's mind, and I don't think he even believes me when I talk about this. So as we're kind of rounding out this conversation, I think that there is multiple layers of application here. So they have this generator on site where literally all they need is salt and water, and they can fill up 1,000 bottles if they want in one day. There's no like, hey, we're waiting for the supply to come in. We had, an issue this week. We needed to do extra cleaning and now we're out of products. We got to rush to get some. No, fill back up the tank, make as much as you want. One thing that I have done is I give bottles of this to my workers, and they can use it to literally spray their bodies, literally spray their hands, their face. When I was first introduced to this over 6 years ago, it was a guy I went to church with, was selling kind of little home generator, right? And he took the bottle. I'd never heard of this before. He took the bottle and he literally sprayed it into his mouth, and I fell on the floor. I mean, I freaked out. I was like, what are you doing? I was like, you don't have to like pull this dog and pony show and freak me out like this. And I just didn't understand it. There's actually many, many case studies and applications as hypochlorous acid being used as a therapeutic in neti pots, spraying it and actually running it through your sinuses to help clean. I think it's common, a common practice to not ingest it necessarily, but certainly spraying it on your body and things like that. Josh, you going to let me come and spray you down next time I see you?
I'm sitting here wondering now if maybe you weren't joking when we got on the show before we hit record and you said you just gargled with hypochloric acid to get ready for this show. Now I'm thinking maybe you weren't really joking. You might have really done that.
I was not joking at all. I was just before this recording, I was on job site. I walked through, safely. I did my proper cleaning before. I had my bottle of hypochlorous acid with me in my truck, walked through a community where we were doing a job site. And before I got back in my truck, I sprayed my hands. I sprayed my face. When I came home, I felt like I wanted to do a little hypochlorous gargle. And so I did, call me crazy.
Hey, no, you're not crazy. I would never condone drinking cleaning solutions. We saw where that got, us, but it's definitely a component of the product that you can use liberally, right? I mean, you can safely do those things. It's actually been studied in all of those different applications as a nasal, sterilant, as a throat sterilant. Dentists use it as a mouthwash. Any type of an abrasion, that you may have, or rash, dermatologic acne, spray it right on there. It induces a healing response. And it's, I think you're right though, Lucas, like you don't want to get too in the weeds about some of these crazy, or what seemingly are crazy uses of a product, and then talk about, oh, by the way, like this is what you're going to use to disinfect your community with, but when they've adopted the technology and they research it and they see that there's more peer-reviewed literature for the use of hypochlorous acid out there than any commercially available disinfectant currently on the market. I mean, it's you could kill a tree with the amount of publications that support its use. So hopefully it continues to gain, more traction. I think a lot of people would be surprised to learn that it is used in almost every aspect of industry. And it affects them personally. I mean, I often use the kind of the characterization of who's opened a package of chicken and had that little reservoir of water in the bottom of the chicken package, from the grocery store. That's hypochlorous acid that they sprayed down the chicken with prior to packing it and shipping it off to kill any surface contaminants, on the meat. So it's a part of our lives. I just hope that we can continue to educate and make it a staple for everyone.
Well, Dan, thanks for taking us to chemistry class today. All our listeners will get a half CEU credit for this episode today for each download.
I actually believed you for a second.
just email Josh. He'll get it all taken care of.
Awesome. That's awesome. No, I really appreciate this opportunity. I, very passionate about this and hope to transition that passion into a sense of urgency and, have communities understand that, removing toxic chemicals is possible. We no longer need to assume the dangers associated with what we think are the gold standard. They're really not. And, we're going to hopefully continue to be able to show you that.
Awesome. Dan Lawson at Viking Pure. We're going to make sure to put all of your contact information in the show notes. And yeah, for sure. We love your passion around this. We want to help get the word out. It's time for senior living communities to take back their community when it comes to infection control. And I think that this is a huge step in the right direction. We have other things available to us that have a lot of holes and, may make people feel good, but don't necessarily work. this actually works. And so we want to get the word out because it can actually help impact the environments that older adults live in. And that's why we're talking about it. Thank you, Dan.
No, thank you, Lucas. And thank you, Josh. This was such a cool experience. Keep doing what you do and keep leading.
Thanks to all of our listeners for listening to another great episode of Bridge the Gap.
Thanks for listening to Bridge the Gap podcast with hosts Josh Crisp and Lucas McCurdy. If you were informed, educated, or influenced by this episode, we want to know. Leave a comment on social media or contact us in the show notes. Powered by supporting partners, Propel Insurance, Enquire, LTC REIT, The Bridge Group Construction, and Solinity. Learn more at btgvoice.com.